My fiancée asked if her friend could stay in my guest room for a few weeks. Then I found out the friend was her ex. Then she smiled at me across my own kitchen island and said, "Honestly, Daniel, maybe living with him would be good for you. You could learn a few things from him." That was the moment I understood something I should have understood months earlier. She was not asking for kindness. She was asking me to participate in my own replacement. What I didn't know yet was that Dylan needing a room was only the first lie Tessa expected me to accept. My name is Daniel Porter. I was 40 years old when Tessa Morgan tried to move her ex-boyfriend into my house and acted offended when I still believed my home had boundaries. I lived in Madison, Wisconsin, in a 2-story house on Briar Lane that I bought before I met Tessa. It was not fancy, but it was mine. 3 bedrooms, a narrow backyard, a garage full of tools, and a basement I had slowly turned into a little workshop where I repaired small equipment after hours. I owned Porter Equipment Rentals, a local tool and equipment rental company. We rented everything from generators and trailers to compact loaders, the kind of equipment people confidently take home before calling 30 minutes later to ask why it is making a concerning noise. My business was practical, loud, and occasionally covered in mud. I liked it that way. I built it with 12 years of work, a second-hand box truck, and enough mistakes to fill a safety manual no one would willingly read. Tessa came into my life through a client. She was 35, an interior staging consultant who helped real estate agents make empty houses look like places where happy people drank coffee near windows. She had soft brown hair, a bright smile, and the ability to walk into a room and immediately decide which lamp had ruined everyone's future. We met when she rented a cargo trailer to move furniture for a lakeside listing. She showed up in cream trousers, a black sweater, and sunglasses too expensive for a woman about to argue with ratchet straps. "You're Daniel?" she asked. "That depends," I said. "If the trailer backs up crooked, I'm just the guy who works here." She laughed and I liked her immediately. For the first year, Tessa made me feel seen in a way I had not felt in a long time. She listened when I talked about the business. She complimented the house. She said she loved that I had built a stable life instead of chasing chaos. When her lease ended and her landlord decided to sell the condo she was renting, I told her she could move in while we figured out the next step. Letting her move in was not the mistake. Failing to notice when sharing my home became surrendering it was. At first it was little things. Her candles appeared in every room. Then her throw pillows took over the couch until sitting down felt like negotiating with decorative livestock. She moved my work boots from the mudroom because they lowered the energy. She rearranged my kitchen drawers and then got annoyed when I could not find my own spatula. I joked about it. "Should I start paying rent to your throw pillows?" She kissed my cheek. "You need help becoming civilized." It sounded cute back then. Later it sounded like a warning. The name Dylan started showing up around month 4. At first he was just a name. Within a few months, it felt like there were 3 people in our relationship even when only 2 of us were in the room. Dylan Cross was her ex. They had dated for almost 5 years, broken up a year before Tessa and I met, and according to her, stayed emotionally mature friends, which is one of those phrases people use when they want suspicious behavior to wear a cardigan. At first, I told myself it was harmless. Dylan used to make amazing risotto. Dylan knew this great bar in Milwaukee. Dylan always said Madison people are too cautious. Adults have history. Past relationships come up. I was not some jealous kid checking her phone while she slept. But whatever I did, Dylan had apparently done it better. Cooking, fixing things, dressing, even knowing which places were worth visiting. One night, while I was making pasta, she watched me chop garlic. Dylan used to slice it thinner. I set the knife down. "Tessa, do you want dinner or a memorial service?" She rolled her eyes. "You are so sensitive." There it was. The first boundary dodge. I did not say, "Stop comparing me to your ex." I let her make the issue my insecurity. That is how people slowly move your fence. They do not tear it down on day one. They lean on it, laugh when it bends, and call you dramatic when you ask them to step back. My best friend, Wade Harris, noticed before I admitted it. He worked in insurance claims, which meant he spent his days listening to people explain how hail, wind, fire, and poor decisions had all conspired against them. He came by one Saturday to borrow a trailer and found me sitting in the garage after Tessa had left for coffee with a friend. "You hiding in your own house?" he asked. "No. You're sitting next to a snowblower in June. It's peaceful." That is not a denial. That is a cry for help with lawn equipment. I laughed because Wade was annoying. But he was not wrong. Then came the dinner that changed everything. By the time Tessa sat down at the kitchen island that Tuesday, I had heard Dylan's name so many times that I almost expected him to pull up a chair. I just did not expect her to ask me to give him one. It was late September. I had made stir-fry because Tessa said she wanted something light, although she later picked out all the vegetables like they had personally betrayed her. She came in from a staging consultation wearing a navy wrap dress, her phone in one hand and that bright, too eager expression people get when they have already decided you should agree. "Can we talk about something?" she asked. Those words have never once introduced a peaceful evening. "What's up?" "There's a situation with a friend of mine," she said, sliding onto a stool at the island. "His landlord is selling the duplex and he needs somewhere temporary to stay. Just a few weeks. Maybe a month." I kept stirring. "Which friend?" She looked at her phone. "You know him." That did not answer my question. She exhaled like I was making paperwork out of compassion. "Dylan." The room went very quiet. "As in your ex, Dylan?" "He is my friend now, Daniel. The fact that we dated does not mean you get to treat him like some threat." "I did not call him a threat. You're acting like he is one. A lot of people need somewhere to stay. They are not moving into my guest room." "Our guest room." I turned off the stove. Funny how quickly something became ours, whenever Tessa wanted to decide what happened to it. "Tessa, my name is on the deed. I pay the mortgage. I invited you here because we were building a life together. That does not mean you can move another man into my house." She laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "Another man? He is Dylan. You know about him." "I know about him because you compare me to him every other day." Her face hardened. "Honestly, Daniel, maybe living with him for a few weeks would be good for you. You could learn a few things from him. He is emotionally open. He actually knows how to live." I stared at her. There are insults that make you angry, and there are insults that make things clear. That one made things clear. She did not want Dylan in the guest room because he needed shelter. She wanted to see if I would let her cross the last boundary without consequence. So I said, "Okay." But I was not agreeing to Dylan moving in. I was agreeing to let Tessa show me exactly how far she intended to take this. Her face lit up. "Really?" "Sure." She came around the island and kissed my cheek. "I knew you were better than this jealousy thing." Jealousy thing. That was what she called my refusal to house her ex. She grabbed her purse. "I'm going to meet Nina for drinks and tell Dylan the good news. Tonight. Just for an hour." The second she left, I called Nina, the friend Tessa had just claimed she was meeting for drinks. Nina answered cheerfully. "Hey Daniel. Are you meeting Tessa tonight?" There was a pause. "No." "Why?" "That is all I needed." "Thank you." She sighed. "Is this about Dylan?" That question told me there was more to this than a guest room. My stomach tightened. "What do you know?" "She told me he might stay with you guys." I told her it was a terrible idea. "Daniel, there's something else. She's met Dylan more than once over the last few months, and a couple of times she asked me to cover for her if you called. She told me nothing was happening between them, so I stayed out of it. But after tonight, I don't think you should be hearing this from anyone but me." "Did she mention she had not exactly asked me yet?" Another pause. "Oh Daniel." That was enough. I wanted to pack her things that night. Believe me, the primitive part of my brain was already folding sweaters with aggressive enthusiasm. But Wade had drilled one thing into me after years of watching messy housing claims. Never create the problem they can use against you. So I called Paul Whitaker, an attorney who handled small business contracts for my company. Paul was dry, cautious, and allergic to drama. I explained everything. He said, "Do not throw her belongings outside. Do not lock her out without documentation. Do not text anything heroic. Heroic texts are expensive in court. What do I do? You document everything. You give written notice. You make it clear that this third party does not have permission to enter or stay in the house. Then we handle the living arrangement properly." Boring. Very. Good. Boundaries are stronger when they are boring, Daniel. So I got boring. I wrote Tessa an email. "Tessa, after our conversation tonight, I am not consenting to Dylan Cross or any other third party moving into my home. Your request, combined with the way you have repeatedly compared me to Dylan and involved him in our relationship, crossed a serious boundary. I no longer believe continuing our engagement or living arrangement is healthy. We will handle the next steps properly and in writing. Dylan does not have permission to enter or stay in the house. Daniel." I read it 5 times before sending. Then I documented the message, saved screenshots of our earlier texts, and followed Paul's instructions exactly. Self-respect does not always feel brave the first night. Sometimes it feels like heartburn with principles. Tessa came home at 11:40. Dylan's gray SUV pulled in behind her. That told me everything I needed to know. She had not come home to discuss my answer. She had brought him with her anyway. I met them at the front door. Tessa had an overnight bag over one shoulder. Dylan stood behind her with 2 duffel bags and the expression of a man who had been promised a room. You said okay, Tessa said. And then I put my actual answer in writing. Dylan is not moving into this house. Her face changed. What is wrong with you? Nothing. This is my home too. I am not discussing our living arrangement on the porch with Dylan standing behind you carrying luggage. You are embarrassing me. That almost made me laugh. I am embarrassing you? Daniel, stop this. We talked about it. No. You presented me with a decision you had already made. Then Dylan finally spoke. Man, I didn't know she hadn't cleared this. Tessa turned around. Do not take his side. I'm not taking sides. You told me he was cool with it. For the first time that night, Tessa had no answer ready. She looked from Dylan to me. Then back to Dylan. He was. No, I said. You heard what you wanted to hear. Dylan shifted the duffel bags. I'm not staying somewhere I'm not wanted. Tessa snapped. You do not have anywhere else tonight. That sounds like something you two should have figured out before driving here. Her eyes went wide. You cannot seriously be doing this to me. I'm not doing anything to you. I am saying Dylan is not moving into my house. You are so controlling. No. Controlling would be telling you who you are allowed to see. I am telling you who is not moving into my guest room. The argument lasted another few minutes before Dylan finally picked up his bags and walked back toward his SUV. Tessa followed him. Before getting in, she turned toward me. You are going to regret this. Maybe. I closed the door. But for the first time in months, I did not feel like I was the unreasonable person in the room. Over the next several days, I followed Paul's instructions for ending the living arrangement properly. Wade was there when Tessa collected her essentials, and we documented everything that remained. Clothes, cosmetics, books, decorative objects. 3 lamps she insisted were vintage even though one still had a Target tag. And enough skincare bottles to resurface a tennis court. We arranged storage for the remaining belongings, prepaid for 30 days, and Paul handled the communication. I thought that would be the end. Of course not. That would have been too efficient. Online, Tessa recast herself as the victim of a controlling fiancé who had weaponized housing. Dylan's name was mysteriously absent from every version. Then Nina called me again. I need to tell you something before this gets worse. Dylan had not lost his housing because a landlord had suddenly sold the duplex. He had been removed after 3 months of unpaid rent. There had also been a dispute over missing property from a shared garage. 2 former roommates had even warned others about missing tools after Dylan stayed with them, although no charges had come from those claims. He has done this before, Nina said. He moves in with people temporarily. Then somehow temporary becomes permanent. I sat there staring at the wall. Tessa had been willing to gamble our engagement, my home, and my peace for a man she had not even bothered to understand. I forwarded what Nina sent me to Paul and went back to work. I thought learning the truth about Dylan's housing history was bad enough. 2 days later, his name followed me somewhere I never expected. My own business. A compact generator disappeared from our rental yard. Not one of our biggest machines, but expensive enough that it could not be dismissed as a paperwork mistake. We checked the sign-out records. Nothing. Then we pulled the security footage. A gray SUV appeared near the side gate after hours. The plate was unreadable. I recognized the model. But recognizing a vehicle and proving who was driving it were 2 very different things. I did not accuse anyone publicly. I filed a police report and gave them the footage. Then I stayed out of it. 2 days later, Dylan texted me. Tell Tessa to stop dragging me into your drama. I'm done with both of you. I read it twice. I had not contacted Dylan. I had not accused him of anything. So why was he suddenly distancing himself from a situation I had never mentioned to him? I forwarded the message to Paul too. By then, my life had become one long chain of forwarding things to Paul. He replied. Good. Do nothing else. Paul could make 5 words feel like a legal sedative. Then Tessa showed up at Porter Equipment Rentals on Friday afternoon. Not quietly. She stormed into the building wearing a red coat, sunglasses pushed onto her head, and fury all over her face. You ruined my life, she shouted in front of my counter staff and 2 customers renting a carpet cleaner. I walked outside. You brought this to my business? Dylan left. My friends think I lied to them. And somehow you are standing here acting like none of this matters. It matters. Then why do you look so calm? Because it is not mine to fix anymore. She stared at me. You are so proud of your boundaries. You know what boundaries are? Excuses for selfish men who do not know how to love. 6 months earlier, I might have apologized for having limits. Now I understood that love requiring humiliation was not love I wanted. No, I said. Boundaries are the door between love and being used. You kept trying to open mine from the wrong side. She stared at me like she did not recognize the man she had been training not to object. Good. I liked him better too. A week later, police called. The missing generator had surfaced at a pawn shop outside Sun Prairie. The seller information led them straight to Dylan. He had apparently claimed it came from a failed contracting job. I gave the police whatever records they requested. Then I stayed out of their way. I did not need revenge. Paperwork was doing fine without my emotional support. Once people learned what had happened, the version of the story Tessa had been telling stopped holding together. A few days later, she emailed me. I know I crossed a line. I thought Dylan represented freedom, but I was wrong about him. I was wrong about you too. You were the person I could actually build a life with. Can we talk? I waited a day before answering. No. You did not choose me when you thought you had better options. I am not going to become your choice because those options failed. I wish you well. I sent it. Then I blocked the thread. 3 months later, life felt different. My guest room became an office again. I painted it dark blue, put in a real desk, and hung a framed photo of the first delivery truck I ever bought. My house became quiet in a way that did not feel empty. It felt returned. That was around the time Grace Bennett came into the rental yard. Grace was 38 and ran a small neighborhood bakery. She needed a floor sander because she had taken over an old storefront with hardwood hidden under carpet that looked like it had survived several governments. She listened carefully while I explained the machine, asked smart questions, and did not once compare me to a man named Dylan, which already put her ahead of recent history. The next week, she returned the sander clean and on time with a box of cinnamon rolls. For the staff, she said. Wade took one bite. Daniel, marry the frosting. We are not taking relationship advice from pastry. Grace came back several times during the renovation. Sometimes she rented equipment. Sometimes she brought pastries. Eventually we started getting coffee. Nothing rushed. And for once nothing needed to. She did not need a room. She did not need rescuing. She did not need me to prove love by erasing my own comfort. She had her own keys, her own business, her own life. And when she stepped into mine, she knocked first. I thought about Tessa less and less. Not with anger. More like distance. She had taught me something simple. When someone treats your boundaries like obstacles, believe what they are telling you about their respect for you. I believed Tessa eventually. She wanted me to make room for her ex. Instead, I finally stopped making room for disrespect. What would you have done the moment your fiancée asked to move her ex into your home, said no, or ended the engagement right there? Tell me in the comments. If you want more stories where betrayal is only the beginning and the real journey is what comes after, subscribe to Elfix Tales.